Coaches, what happens when people don't follow through on the agreements and the commitments that you've made with them? What happens when you put in some great instruction, some sort of great activity in your practice, but you don't see it in the next practice? What happens if you have an agreement with your fellow coaches, but the next day they don't follow through on that agreement? Great coaching is not just about what you do out there on the pitch and the court. It's also about how you connect the dots for people and what you do in between those practices and games. This is episode 36 of the Don't Tell Me, Show Me podcast, and we're going to dig into really practical and useful ideas on how you can hold people accountable, how you can perhaps hold yourself accountable, and shift from just instructing and telling people what to do through to genuine coaching. Right, Mark, thanks for joining me as always. It sounds like you've had some great feedback from some clients this week about some of our recent content, and there seems to be a recurring theme coming through. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's this has happened for many years, but because of the episodes, then questions come out. So, we've talked about great constraints-led approach, about gamification, about using certain scoring systems in the environment because we want them to learn through the game and what's in front of them. The challenge is that is only part, in my opinion, of effective coaching. And I use the word effective. So if you're only doing that, then there's some real issues, because if we looked from the last episode, we were talking about, it was Liam, wasn't it, in the last episode? So I'll just make sure I got the name right. He used an example of, he's got his toolbox, which is, his game-based approach, but then he's got a tool belt where actually these are the things where he can do an intervention of a one-to-one, he could stop, he should check and challenge, etc. So if I shared, and the listeners, I really want you to reflect openly about your situation, whether you're an elite club coach, national coach, age group, it makes no difference. If you're double-hatted, i.e. you're part of the committee in the club and you're a coach and you're a parent, it makes no difference. One of the challenges we have is there's certain behaviors in Better People, Better Players, Better Athletes that are based on the choices we make and what we do. So if we set these agreements up that we go, this is the type of culture we want to build, this is the type team we want to play like, individual athlete makes no difference. When we're setting them up, we need to ask ourselves some questions. And the first question for me is, are they capable of doing it? Does this trump everything else? What I mean by capable of doing it is once they see the value, we've always talked about the why, is saying, okay, can you do it now? So we're out of season now. There is no pressures of score lines, of parents, of social media if you're an elite club, or might be with someone like me as a mentor and you're the club coaches and you're saying, or a club coach together, say, yeah, this is really important. We will do this. We need to do this to allow us to build the culture, the type game we want to play. When we're setting them, we've got to be mindful of ourselves. If we're setting something that's a change in people, are we saying we're going to honor this and check accountability, support and celebration and look for it until it becomes embedded? So if we set too many agreements up, so yeah, I'll do this. I'll give you an example for a coach and then a coach to coach, coach mentor, Simon, and then coach to player. A mentor to coach would be, Mark, I will agree. I see the value in the hot reviews, which is that voice message or video after practices, after matches. I'll commit to 2 after practice a week and after the match. I'm going to do this every time. Are you sure? Yeah, 100%. So for the first week, people do it. And then you start to see a drop-off where for some reason, whether they thought it was a terrible session or they got caught up with a parent or the media comes and asks them a question, they don't do it. So when we get to that point, someone like me, I'm just using the mentor coach example, we go into other Simon. I've got to ask myself, if I'm agreeing it with that person, are they capable of doing it? So they need to show me, yes, definitely capable. Do they see the value? Well, I've checked and challenged, I've said yes, okay. So now what's preventing them? But who's the person need to scan for it? Well, coach should be, coach and peers should be, coach to coach. I definitely have to, because I'm the one that's had the agreement with that coach or coaches. So as soon as I'm not seeing it, I need to put an intervention in. So when we're setting these agreements up, we've got to be making sure value, capability, and then am I going to scan for it? And am I ready to put the interventions in, however uncomfortable they are, to ensure the check and challenge? Now, before you jump in with a bunch of questions, Simon, just highlight this point. We mentioned it quite a few ago, but not in this context. Whether that's coach to player, player to player, coach to management, we may set our expectations where we say we are definitely capable of doing this and we see the value in doing it. So let's go for it. Then there's a drop off. So then someone needs to put an intervention, should be at self accountability, and then peers, and then whoever. So if it was a coach to coach, I'd be 3, I'd be the mentor, whatever scale that is. We may get to a point where we're going, yeah, you're right, sorry. And we may get to a point after 4 weeks or so where we need to review and say, guys, we're still not doing it. So if we set up things that we're not really capable of, now we're in season, or is our time management really poor, where we're not putting in a little reminder on the phone, whatever it is, or backing each other to keep it alive because it's dropping off. Or we thought there was value in it, but we now don't see the value in it. So why is that? So an example might be, Simon, I'm sharing hot reviews in the group, in a WhatsApp group, Slack, whatever it is, but I'm getting no response from anyone. I'm sharing them in there. No one's replying. No one's even thumbing up. No one's giving me a comment. So what's the point? I'm not getting anything out of it. It wasn't what I expected it would be. So that's where you have the dialogue, and you either adjust then, or you go, right, great. So you're right. So let's make sure, let's agree. If someone puts a hot review in, whether everybody or you buddy up, so you go 2 buddies or 3, you can do this with players as well, where you say, my buddy, I'll make sure you share it in whatever the agreement is. And if you don't, I'll challenge you. But when you do, I'll make sure I comment on it. So I'll listen to it and I'll do a meaningful comment of something of dialogue. Now there's texture. Now we make sure we honor that and we're looking for the shift. So that was a coach to coach or mentor to coach example. I'll stop there, Simon, because I know you've got a few questions or connections there.
Well, this is something I struggle with. So you chose reviewing. You talk about hot reviews. I mean, I'm all about the plan, do, review cycle. It's
as you should be. Yes.
Yes, it's a big part of my professional life, big part of my work life, of my personal life. It's something. It's a pillar that I kind of have in all aspects of my my life. I mean, my wife and I do a review every Sunday night, but it's still hard to do the review. Every day there's still a little bit of friction, a little bit of resistance, a little bit of tension, and sometimes it feels like you're sort of fighting your own psychology to do what you know to be valuable. So that's where the accountability, I think, comes in and really helps. But I don't have a question, actually. I've just got a reflection. It's maybe this is just about myself, but it's remarkable the capacity of the human brain to not do what you know to be really valuable.
Yeah. Now, if I delve in a little bit there, we can work on your reflection, Simon, or just anybody. I don't want to put you on the spot, but one of the things, and we only using this as an example, we'll get into others.
Yeah.
One of the areas that I haven't mentioned about the disconnect, no one's listening, is an example of it. So I'm not getting anything back from it. So why am I doing it? But also sometimes there's, what's the content of that? So what are the meaningful things? It was just a session. There was nothing jumped out of the session. So I've got nothing to say. It was the same as the last session is sometimes a comment. So when you go, okay, well, let's look at the framing. So I always share a basic framing, then it evolves. So my first framing for a coach would be, how was my state? So that's going into the session. Did it change during the session? What was success for the session? So if there's an every time success for them as their work on, or a success of the session. And then how was the session? And then what interventions I do during the session based on. So it may be if they've set up every times already, we review them first. If it's a clinical, I was working on this, I always get to review them first. So how did it go? How was your interventions? But always starting on state. The amount of time, Simon, when we put that texture in, we're getting a trend where a coach is coming in and says, I wasn't in a good headspace coming into the session. So if what should happen then, if we're building how we want to build, and it's the same with the players, if we're spotting that as a trend, the intervention needs to be where, Simon, with that coach? If we're seeing consistently they're coming and going, my head's not in a good place.
Yeah, it's state. It's what's happening before the practice.
So the support mechanism should be who's got the rapport with that coach. Could be another coach. Let's go for a coffee or let's have a chat or just have a discussion. Where's the barriers? Have you got any strategy 5 minutes out from coming into a practice session where you start going, okay, so what is success for me? What's it look like? What's the best version of me? Connect to, it depends on the person, but get to how privileged I am to make a difference to these kids' lives, or this team, I value where I am. Whatever it is that can help you get back. Have you got a structure where you go, right now it's 10 minutes in or 15 minutes in, a half an hour in, I'm going to go back into this routine because it helps me reconnect to why I'm here. It's a bit like if you listen to Broadway actors that might do the show 3 times a day.
Oh, that's incredible. Like,
yeah,
when you go to Hamilton, I took my daughter to Hamilton last summer in London, and you would think it was the first night of the season. It's incredible, their energy.
That's the point, Simon, because for them, when in my few 20 odd years ago, I was going to every situation I can, just let me in, don't charge me, I just want to see. One of the elements in London when I was asking some in theatre, and I was saying, now, how do you do that? That must be really challenging. And one of the guys said, well, it's quite simple for me, Mark, that really helped me. And I think someone shared with him many years before, is it might be my 10,000th time, but for the person it's their first time.
Yeah.
And it's just that mental connection with the audience. It's about the audience. It's not about me. It's about the experience of the audience. And that helped that person get into the role each time.
Yeah, that's a great frame, because so often, in my experience, when you review or you think about your practice or games, I tend to think about my own experience, which is really valid. I think about the performance of the players. I don't naturally and frequently think about what was the experience of the players. In that session.
Now, you could put referencing on that as well, is one of the things we talked about in one of the earlier podcasts. I think it was on this series, I'm pretty sure it was, is when you're scanning and observing, you make a little list of your database of all your players in a team. You may have 3 or 4 different teams. If you're grassroots elite, you might have 1 or 2. What you're saying is over a week and a month, you put a little tick, like a little Excel sheet next to them on the day, had an interaction with them, was it effective or not? And then you look over a month or so and you start to spot, wow, I'm getting loads of interactions with these people, good or bad. I'm having hardly interactions with these people. So straight away you ask yourself why, but then you put a target on to say, right, in this next week, I will target having meaningful interventions with these players live in sessions. It may be I'm going to speak to them before the session just to get to know them and reconnect. But then you review again. So that is giving you more meaningful of the experience part of when you go into a coaching session. You've got real data that helps the human side. You go, I'm being a bit biased towards these players. I'm hardly speaking to these or connecting with them. Okay, I'm going to focus on that. So it gives you focus, and you remind yourself before you go into a session, okay, this is it. And then in a hot review, because you've already shared at the end of the week reflections, if you're doing this type way of coaching support development, you'll say my focus this week is to have meaningful interactions with these particular players. So then in your hot reviews, you've got a point of reference where you go, how did I do with that? End of week review, how have I progressed? Now we're making a connection, but it's meaningful. People are listening to it, reconnecting. Now that's so different, Simon. Now we're looking at real texture than someone just saying, can you see the value in doing a hot review after practice? Oh yeah, okay, let's do them. And they pop them in, no one listens. It's a bit dreary and grey. There's no point of reference. There's no connection to growth, and people drop off.
Yeah, because those reviews get quite samey. That's what I've noticed. The more I review, I can start repeating myself. They're not all that interested. The players can't get this concept again. Maybe at some point I need to think about how I'm teaching that. But it can get quite repetitive, and because your experience can be repeated, and when you're just seeing coaching through the same lens all the time, you just seem to get these reoccurring themes. So refreshing that and keeping that alive is It's really, really difficult. And I coach a lot on my own, got assistant coach this year, but not always able to bounce ideas around in a small group. So you can find yourself just going, you're in the hamster wheel, particularly this time of year, January, February in the Northern Hemisphere. It's winter, it's post-Christmas. Yes, so you're looking ahead to the end of the season or the playoffs. So that sort of back half of the regular season can be a bit of a grind.
So let's focus on what you've said there, Simon, keeping to what we talked within this episode. First question you need to ask yourself is, at self, why am I doing this? How meaningful am I? Where's the texture? How am I spotting the trends? What's important to me is growth as a coach, but what's important for the team? Okay, am I really reviewing that? Am I scanning for it? So now we're questioning the value, but also the content, and where's my data to go, how's this going? Where's my point of focus for the session? If you're doing all that and you're going, I still aren't seeing the value in it, then you need to connect with somebody, go, let's not do it, or I'm missing something when we do it. I need someone to feedback. Now, this goes back to the second point, is you don't have to have someone at your club being in your coach support group sharing hot reviews. You can get someone from another club, another sport, and go, let's work together. You drop it in the group, you set agreements and permission of accountability if I don't. At the end of week reflection, you go, my coaching sessions are these days. So you can expect 3 hot reviews on a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, whatever it is. So now the person's going, right, okay, I know I'm going to look for them now. So now you've set yourself up for success and challenge. So that the third point to this is, whoever you've set that with, and you definitely need somebody to set up whatever it is, whether that's management, coach to coach, coach to player. We're now saying someone has to hold us all accountable until it becomes we can manage ourselves. So who is that person? Who have we given permission to go, this is what we want to do. These are the barriers we've identified, and this is where I think you can help us. So we want to manage it, but if we don't, can you step in for us on these moments? And you've got a bit of experience of that on the check and challenge, which often is my job when I go in. It's the adherence, the support, the change. So if you think about it, texture, have we put in the right mechanism to people connect with the real value of the why? When the environment changes, now we're getting into the season, you mentioned seasonal, especially if you're outside and it's winter and it's wet and cold, raining, I need to do a hot review now, as an example, whatever it may be, is we are now saying, when we set up value and capability, is it a priority? Or are there other things that are more important that we don't yet do? If they are, let's put focus on them first. Let's embed them. Then we can review and move to this. So this naturally falls into, now we're looking at players, whether it's a great example, which is common, Simon, at all levels, particularly at grassroots and club level, is we've agreed that the principle of getting ready to be ready is so important for us as a club, as a culture of just being successful when we start a session. So what does that look like to us? So we've said we'll always be in time. What's in between on time and in time? Well, if the session starts at 9 a.m., then I will be there at 8:50 with all my kit. I'm hydrated. I'm ready. I'm taped up. I can just scan my teammates now, see if they need a bit of a help, and I'm ready to start the warm-up. And I remind myself why I'm here. So that's getting ready to be ready. So if we agree what that looks like, check capability. Okay, let's go and explore it now. Next session, let's overtly go, remember what we agreed. Let's review. How have we done, guys? Great. So we can do it, but then we got to scan for it. So the rule of 3, obviously, is self. I'm not doing it. I need to sort myself out. Guys, I'm sorry. I was looking at my phone, and now I'm on time. I'm rushing to get. Yeah, I arrived at the warm-up line, but I'm rushing now. I'm not really good taping up. I'm going to do better. This is what I'm going to do. Not sorry, but this is what I'm going to do differently. That's self-accountability. Teammates, great. Do you need support and challenge in that? I'm seeing a positive shift. Yeah, you nailed it this time. But then even if I'm not doing that, it's up to my teammates to go, Sarah's not here. Sarah's rushing again. That's the second time Sarah's rushed. Not coach stepping in now. Someone needs to say, one of the teammates going, getting ready. You're struggling a bit now. I can see now you're rushed to, what can we do differently? That's the peer-to-peer. the coach is still scanning, and this is where I think the fall down happens, Simon, and then we can get to on pitch, on court example, is if we're saying these are important, we've gone for that priority and go, we need to make sure we're there early enough, or the agreed role where we rotate between assistant coaches or a parent support coach, if you're at that level, where someone turns up earlier to scan for the players coming in, if they're being ready to be ready as part to see, one, are they all coming in? Secondly, are they connecting at peers if they see that? Are they helping each other be successful to be ready? When we start the warm-up, are we on it, ready to go? I need to scan for it, because if I don't scan for it, it could be unacceptable based on our agreement, but nothing's happening.
Hey, that's so interesting that you say that loads of your projects, loads of your client work is actually about adherence. It's not even about it's not really about what to do. It's about the consistency of doing it. And it just illustrates that lots of people in situations, whether it be coaches or teachers in a classroom, a lot of teachers don't need to be told how to teach better. They just need to adhere to what they know is good teaching. You replace that with coaching, replace it with leadership, and then for a player, they know how to perform the tactics, or they know how to get ready to be ready. They don't need knowledge. They know what to eat, what not to eat. They don't need more knowledge. They just need better adherence. It's so interesting that you're paid the big bucks to go in and get people to do what they know what to do anyway. You're an adherence specialist.
And it's this isn't my stages, but that raising awareness to generate responsibility to facilitate performance. My job is to raise awareness. My job is to generate responsibility, and that part is once I've walked away, once we've had the training part. Now we're scanning for, okay, are you taking responsibility to the agreements of the value that you said you need to do, not what you want to do? Right now I'm scanning. So I'm scanning coaches and managers at senior level in corporate, doesn't make any difference. But I still need to get to a place where I'm going, you guys need to be doing this for yourself. The intervention I've put in now that you may thought, whoa, Mark, that was uncomfortable. No, it's not for me, because that's my role. But I need to help you get to a place where it's not uncomfortable for you. Or if it is uncomfortable, you're going to do it anyway. Bit of the Nike thing, just do it. It's the right thing to do. You've seen it, because now you're giving yourself time to scan. Remember the point, Simon, about scanning is not just moving your eyes, is knowing what to look for, relevant, picking it up, and then making judgment of, right, I need to do something now. Whoa, it's that person. They're not going to take this very well. I'll avoid. No. If there's an agreement, you've got to go for it in that moment, because don't have the agreement then. So this is that. I know some people go, Mark, that's a bit too harsh, but this is where back to the first point. If we're saying, look, if it's important and it's a priority and people are capable, let's have that discussion, but then let's honor it. If it's not that important, then don't set it up, because there will be things that are important. So let's not put this one at the top. Let's park that one. What is important? And then let's agree on that.
In your experience in the military, the consequences of not adhering to an agreement can be fatal. Can be really significant. Is there more adherence in some of those type of teams because the consequences of not adhering are so great? Like, do we have to raise the stakes inside a sports team sometimes, or help people to understand what not that we're going to make them run sprints if they don't adhere. I don't mean that in terms of consequence, but just in the outcome.
So there's three elements to that answer if we look at military, and this is where a lot of people that haven't had a military experience of decent level don't understand.
I certainly don't.
So the military is, and I'm not disrespecting the military, as if you don't know, I served 23 years. I turned down promotion to leave after 23-year point. There are people in the military that are lazy. I'm going to swear a little bit, Simon, but gits. Okay. They are lazy people that will shortcut everyone. They're unfit, morbidly obese. To get out of fitness, they will go, I've got a bad back or knee. Can't prove it. They get a medical certificate, so they don't have to do the stuff they know they need to do. There's that end.
Mhm.
There's the other end of highly motivated, connected, responsible, accountability people that are world leading in culture and teamwork. There's a spectrum.
Yeah.
When you're in basic training, you are told what to do, where to parade. And if you don't, you have a disciplinary, and you get 7 days where you have to do the washing or drill, all the stuff, all the horrible stuff. So it's a disciplinary action process,
Cleaning the floor
which
with
you
a
can't
toothbrush.
do in sport. It's not if
Yeah.
I didn't even think it was effective in the military, but it's you stand there with parade. We march you here, you do this. It's the EDIP, exploration, demonstration, imitation, practice, and you do it rep enough, and you can show me. But then you move into more elite special forces. So next gauge is, parachute regiment to a degree, commando forces. Then you've got SAS, SBS, and then you've got all the other little fractions of the covert stuff that people do. Once you start getting on those courses, there's a shift in, I'm not going to tell you what to do. It's up to you to be ready. And if you're not ready, the chances are you won't survive long on this training. So we're not teaching you the fundamentals now. There's an expectation that you need to take responsibility for what we call husbandry. So making sure your nails are clipped, your clothing's clean, you've wiped and cleaned your feet, your weapons clean, your kit's packed ready. You've just come off, it's wet and it's cold, but you're getting ready. You understand how to do advanced contact. You understand scanning for your teammates, so you're not going to shoot them in the back. You're making judgment, and you understand your brick of your section, that they trust you, that you're going to make the right decision live when everything's going wrong, which it always does. So there's a shift there, but that's more of a selection in more than a inclusive development. So my challenge in the military, and generals, admirals loved it, and some middle management did not like it at all, is I was saying, well, surely we can, in basic training, we can do a bit of a shift of developing better teamwork and leadership beyond the adventurous training. Adventurous training in the military was they went away and they did kayaking, mountaineering. There, the same people that couldn't make a decision within a couple of days were starting to make decisions. Why? Because the environment was different. It goes, we're going to show you how to pack your kit, but you need to pack it now. Obviously, there was still safety on making sure they tie the right rope before they jump off a cliff. Someone was checking, but you tie it. Let me check. Great. Now we can go. So my challenge was we could do better. Now, this I left in 2006, by the way. So I was pushing this, and I turned down promotion to push this in phase 2 recruit training centers, and I was getting great results in 2002, 2003. But it still wasn't embraced by the military, although they were seeing the shift. What's beautiful is there's still people that work with me now that are the colonels in the military, and the new people coming through. The stuff that I was really pushing is now more accepted in the military. So I'm not saying it's brilliant now, but it's definitely an improvement. There's some real great work going on. So when people look at the military, I don't think they see the picture. And I think where the military often at that base level is it's discipline. You do it or I'm going to charge you. Stand in front of your officer commanding. I think that's a bit backward in, yes, there's a time at the extreme where we do that. But before that, there's got to be a way of how can I enhance that one person to be better at accountability, to judgment, to accept feedback from their teammates, which happens effectively at commando, parachute, SAS, SBS level, and in some units closer to that. But there's a lot where it doesn't happen very well in the military at all. So I don't think the military in all aspects is a great role model for developing leadership, as some people believe.
Well, neither is sport. I mean, there's
exactly.
amazing examples in sport of developing self-regulated learners and all of that, as Alan would talk about, and the rule of 3 is in place in lots of sporting situations, but an equal number or even greater number of sporting situations, particularly teams where it's just not in place, where it's just about instructing all the time. It's about that attitude of knowledge transfer. I'll transfer my knowledge of the sport from my brain into your brain, and then you'll be able to do it, as opposed to, which is a deficit-based approach, as opposed to a asset-based approach, a strengths-based approach, which is, I think you can do this. You've got latent capabilities you might not even be sure you had yourself. But if I just guide you a little bit, get you started as much as you need it, and you might need a lot, or you might need a little, then actually you can draw out your own understanding and figure it out for
Yeah, and
yourself.
if we related that to not exactly the same, bear with me, but if we related that to SAS to a Premiership football team, SAS have a lot of people start and then they really get down to small numbers actually pass the course. They put them through, and so they're scouting and selecting the best through a arduous selection process. The very best teams in the world that you may not see in NBA, basketball, in Premiership football, and you see the coach shouting, instructing, telling, and you think, well, they're winning championships, so that must be the right way. Where they're slightly different is they have scouted in the people with the software and the hardware, the skill, the fitness, the minds, the very best in the world. They're paying a lot of money, go, right, drop them in there. It's not the coach that's instructing. They know the game. They have craft and skill in judgment, in scanning, in decision, in interacting. So could they enhance them more? I would suggest yes in some teams. So this is where you can't look at what a coach is doing at elite level and then say, I'm just going to copy that because they're winning championships. They have the scouting and selection in is not what you've got for most people. I know we discussed that on other podcasts, but this falls nicely into getting back to the subject of this, Simon, as it gets back to, we've talked about coaches off the pitch, off the court, but we talked in the last few episodes about that CLA approach is the gamification approach, and we can get people to learn. But now what we're looking at, we've mentioned already, what about when they come in? Am I really scanning for that? Because if I don't do that, they're starting already in a negative place in their mind and their attitude and their focus. So now it's going to be a bad session. I'm doing all this stuff, but I'm not seeing the commitment to sprinting back, to communicating, to moving. So once we've done that, if we're seeing something unacceptable, this is where we go, right, great coaching is the judgment on, right, now I need to put some interventions in, which is getting into the belt, if we're back to that on the previous episode, and talking about what are those interventions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right, Mark, this has been really interesting. Let's leave the listeners with some tips around these topics of adherence, accountability, coaching in between sessions, managing and supporting people off the court. Rapid fire, go for it.
Set what's important, identify the most important elements, whether that's software or hardware, agree it, get people to see the value in it, set up the accountability and the celebration, but then scan for it and understand if it's new, it will regress. With 99.9% of people, be ready for the regression, have firm, fair and friendly interventions that are pre-agreed, but don't avoid them, honor them.
My tip is around self-adherence, and it's really micro. We're talking about the hot review earlier. We talk about voice notes, etc. What's really worked for me is sending a voice note to myself on WhatsApp, because so much of your resistance, in my experience, is built up around an unknown fear of being judged by others. So if I could get used to doing a hot review just for myself, 4, 5, 6 times in a row, listen to it back myself the next day, you're going to get something from that. And then you've had a bit of practice at those reviews, then start sending it to other people. But just the simple act of recording a 60-second hot review on WhatsApp voice note to yourself is surprisingly valuable.
And just put in some framework structure on that. So, right, when I start this hot review, I'm going to, so my always is, how was I say when I started, during, what success for me or the team, how are the interventions? So at least you've got a structure, a framework on that side of things. That was just to reply to your bit, Simon. That wasn't my top tip.
Yeah, okay, crack on.
So the other really important one is to check. If we have value and we see the value and we've set its priority, we need to check capability. And the capability in all the environments that we're asking people to actually execute and commit to this process. So if they're not capable of doing it, then you need to say, well, if that's the source, your investment need to be in, okay, so how can we increase the capability, or do we need to shift the agreement?
That's really interesting. Hey, I'm going to repeat something you said, but so that you don't have to repeat yourself, because I've written it in caps here in my notebook, is get ready to be ready. That's such an easy way to frame it, especially to young players. Are you getting ready to be ready? Have you done all the things 3 hours in advance of the game to enable you to be ready? It's easier to be ready for a game because you're motivated, but what are you doing the night before practice? If you're coaching young people and they're at school, are they preparing for tomorrow's practice tonight? Have they packed their bag, etc. tonight? What are they doing to get ready to be ready? I really love that.
I've got two, Simon. I'll stick to, but I'll do one at a time just in case you have another one. So the first element is a really effective way, once we've set the agreement that you're capable, you see the value, there's accountability, is set accountability buddies up. So you can do this player to player, on pitch, on court, for the warm-up, building up, whatever it may be, is whatever's going on, you're my buddy, and I will celebrate when you're doing things great. But if you're not, I'll be there to have an effective impact with you, which is where that rule of two comes in. So you can do that with coaches when they're doing the hot reviews. If you've agreed it in a coaching group, we're saying, right, I'm scanning for Jimmy. Jimmy, you're scanning for me. If we don't, you've told me you're going to do Tuesday, Thursday. If you're not, I'm the one check. Jimmy, where's you? If you share it, I'm always going to listen and going to reply. So that helps the structure of, I can't look for everybody, but I can certainly support my buddy. And you might have three together. It may not be two.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, my last one is quite personal. It's about the psychology of coaching. I had a really big shift when I intentionally replaced judgment with curiosity. And this was actually sparked by my experiences as a parent. And it's not till I did it that I realized how much I was judging, even though I would have told you that I wasn't, or told my daughter that I wasn't judging her, because judgment comes in really subtle forms. And it's not till you work with somebody who's hypersensitive to judgment that you realize quite how much judging is going on. And I don't mean that as a self-criticism. I think it's just human nature. When I replace that judgment with curiosity, why is that person behaving in that way? Why are they not applying this concept? Why are they a little bit resistant to what I'm saying? Just replacing judgment with curiosity was a major, major paradigm shift for me.
And that sinks into it's not my last, but it will be a last for this, Simon, otherwise you'll tell me off, is if something's not happening and you're not sure why, you either do a hot one-to-one with someone from the side of the pitch. I'm talking about players now, you can do this with coaches, managers. If there's a team element, pull everyone, but be the detective, but be the inquisitive detective. And this is why you need pre-agreements. You can't just make stuff up. Is I'm looking for it. Guys, what are you seeing now? Why have I stopped you? And if they're not recognizing, right, this is what I'm seeing. I just want to understand, and this is the inquisitive, it's so important. I understand why, because we know we're capable of doing it. What's preventing us now? And listen, silence, listen, be inquisitive. You split them up in 2s and 3s if you want. If it's a small group, right? You got 30 seconds, discuss, come back. So what have we got? And then get to action, solution to action. Okay, so what do we need to do differently now? Do you need my support? Do we need each other? What's that look like for us now? Okay, let's reset. So in a session, live session, you can do this as coaches, managers, makes no difference. I'm spotting something, but if we look at pitch or court, no, the fundamentals we know capable of, we're not doing, which is what's killing us, whether it's engagement, communication, commitment, whatever. Stop the session, pull everyone in, ask those questions, and it may be, right, let's start again. Once we agree this is what we're going to do different, let's start again. And that's back to this is the belt now. This is not using gamification. This is the intervention that's needed now. But I'm inquisitive. I'm not asking the questions of telling off. I'm asking the question to see, have they connected to what we said was important, that we agree, we know we can do? Okay, what's preventing us? Understand it. Okay, so what do we need to do differently? What's that going to look like? Set some UAEs against it if you want. And then we start again. And then we celebrate the change.
Great. All right. So was that it, or you got one more tip?
Oh, I've got many more, but I'll stop, Simon.
Okay. Well, coaches, thanks for listening. It's been a great start to our season 2. We've had more guests on. We've debated some hot topics. We've got some really interesting guests lined up over the next few weeks. I think the next 2 or 3 months of this podcast are going to be really interesting. We're going to alternate between guest and tips, guest and tips, guests and tips. We'll get practical with these in-between episodes, but also bring you people that have got really unique perspectives. I have one request. If you're listening right to the end with us, can you send this podcast to one coach? Can you just send it to one coach? That's all you got to do. Somebody you know who might be interested, drop them a WhatsApp, share something on email, just just one coach who maybe doesn't know about our podcast, could you please send it on?
And if I close this with a little outro of this episode, I think, when we talk about instruction and coaching, instruction is you've told them, they can do it, so you expect them to do it. Coaching is the ability to influence, so they don't need you to be able to do it, in judgment, in awareness, in commitment to the elements in the moment. So everything we talked about now is, if you're listening to this and you're saying, well, actually, I have told them, but actually now I'm just reminding them, start to look at your bandwidth of actually, is that really coaching, or are you developing self-reliance on you for them to adhere to the very things they're capable of doing? Because if it is that, it will not be effective. You will not embed change. You will always be the person having to tirelessly remind them of the things they're capable of doing. So think about, are you instructional focused, or are you enhancing your coaching capability?
Well, that's parenting and managing people in a nutshell as well.
100%.
All right. Thanks as always, Mark.
Thank you.